Chapter 2. Hobbs the Magnificent. Nothing is ever really forgotten. It's stored in the recesses of our brains, locked in little cabinets just like a complex filing system. Everything remembers. Not just people. A pencil remembers everything it's written or drawn, even who has held it. Wood has a very good mind. Trees remember centuries and centuries of memories, all neatly categorised in the grains of years. Human minds are less effective than most, as human brains have difficulty in remembering most things, but they are there, hidden away, just out of reach, but still letting you know they are there somewhere. Mac had been in the City Dome now for 1 year. He had progressed in his career from trainee to ordinary lower-ranking employee. Mac had been partnered off with a trollog called Tim, who had once been a full weather person, but due to a miscalculation had promptly been demoted. Trollogs are not very clever. They are, in fact, compared to many, as rather dim. But Tim had always been a little smarter than the others. Trollogs are fundamentally scrap iron on a massive scale, a living, breathing mountain of metal. And metal, unlike wood, has very little intelligence and is prone to rust. Tim was having his monthly overhaul, and being that he was not someone you argued with, Mac had been chosen to do it. Mac was covered in paint as he tried to cover every inch of Tim's gigantic bulk. Today was a slack day, and they'd had a little time to relax. Or rather, Tim had had time to relax. Mac was still working hard. Being a weather cleaner was quite a popular job, eventually. No one ever likes to start at the bottom and work their way up, but at the end of it all, you could get the opportunity to become a full weather person. Someone who controlled the dome's weather systems. They would control the overall weather and book out the smaller weathers that were hired by the domers. Of course, promotion worked the other way too, as Tim had previously discovered. Mac's job was to clean the smaller weathers. When clouds had got dirty from particular jobs, he had to clean them. When the tiny suns got filthy from drying paint, when they soaked up all the colours that they were drying, Mac had to wash them to get them golden again. Sometimes it was fun cleaning the weathers. The suns were the worst, as you needed to wear gloves and glasses, and if you weren't careful, you got burnt. Even if you were careful, you got charcoaled. The twisters were fun, but very hard work. You had to chase them around and around, and if you jumped in the middle of them, you could float and rotate on the breeze. But this was often tricky to get out of, as Mac had found. Once he'd climbed in a twister and he couldn't get out. No one was around, and he spent nearly a whole day going around and around until Tim had come back and helped him. For hours after, he couldn't stand straight. He just kept spinning, slowly. Anne awoke with a start. She hadn't slept well recently. Weird dreams kept seeping into her sleep at night. She kept getting the feeling that someone was calling her. But when she woke, no one was there. She turned over and tried to get back to sleep. Anna was now 13 years old, and the last year without her brother had seemed to speed by. When her brother had left, her mother had changed, not into an overprotective, clingy parent. If anything, she'd grown more aloof. She wouldn't talk much and would often sigh. Anna wasn't really bothered. She liked time on her own. Over the time, she'd grown taller. Her bandy legs often covered in muddy trousers, her arms, although bare, were often covered in thick mud, and her face likewise, although you could still make out the violent freckles underneath. Her hair was red. It was bright, bold, and very, very red. Anna! Anna! She awoke, sweat dripping off her face. She'd had that dream again. She was being called. She knew it. But who was it? Anna. Who's there? What do you want? She whispered meekly. What do you want? Anna. She searched for the voice. Where was it coming from? Clothes flew through the air, drawers turned out and tables upturned, but nothing. She couldn't locate the voice anywhere. Anna. There it was again. It sounded closer somehow, but still nothing. She fell in desperation onto a spare crate. Anna. It was definitely louder now. In fact, it sounded very close. She opened the crate. I wonder, she thought. She emptied it. Toys were discarded all over the room, and yes, there it was. What once had been forgotten was now found. She opened the box. It hadn't been touched for a whole year, and the space inside still seemed just as endless as before. The stars still shone brightly. It was pulling her in again. Anna could feel her eyes being drawn towards the central stars. She followed them slowly around and around the small galaxy. Time seemed to disappear again. She had sat for hours watching the stars, but when she woke from her daze, no time had passed at all. She slammed it shut. Not again, she said as she held it shut. Anna sat and looked at the box itself. It wasn't very attractive. It was wooden, but the years had taken their toll and the wood was nearly fossilised. She turned the box over in her hands. On the base was writing. It had been rubbed away with time, but looking closer, she could just make it out. If she squinted and tilted her head, you could definitely see the words. But what did they say? Water is wet? Water is wet? What's that got to do with anything? Anna ran her fingers over the words again. Oh, I just don't understand. It seems illogical to her that something so strange would be written on an old box filled with small stars. She knew the writing was old, but she didn't know how old. Anna! It was Eunice this time, calling up the stairs. We're going to have to leave soon. Hurry up. Pack your things, dear. Time is running short. Anna and her mum were going to see Mac. They were going to stay with him for a week or two in the City Dome. She quickly packed up a few belongings and after putting the magical box on the table by her bed, ran downstairs. Come on then, said her mother, patting her on the back. Best foot forward. Mac was looking great. He had even managed to get a tan. He was clean and respectable and quite different from how Anna remembered him. Anna didn't feel much like socialising with her brother. She wanted to go and explore, see the city. So leaving her family behind, she slipped out the back door and into freedom. The City Dome was bigger than she remembered from her last visit. The buildings seemed taller and the streets longer, but all the same it was exciting. There was a crash inside a nearby inn and a bundle of discarded clothes, legs and handkerchiefs came flying out the door. Anna looked at the heap of unwanted bits and pieces as it stood up and brushed itself down. Anna walked closer, not sure what to make of it. Hello, came a voice from the depths of the handkerchiefs and clothes. Hello? Are you okay? Asked Anna. Bit bruised. Lucky Bugsy here broke my fall. He's getting quite good at it now. The heap readjusted itself and Anna could make out a small face peering out from under. What she could now see was a large top hat. Who are you? She asked. Oh, sorry, my name is Hobbs, he said, outstretching a hand to her. I don't mean to be rude, but why are you dressed like that? Asked Anna curiously. I want to be a magic. Do you want to see a trick? What's a magic? We don't have them where I come from. Where's that then? He asked. I'm an outie. I live just outside Nilsov. Oh, I see. Yeah, you don't get many magics out there. Very particular lot. They don't really get about much. Hobbs continued to rearrange his clothes. So what do they do then? Well, they are people who control magic. They're supposed to be very wise, and if you're ill, they make you better. Well, why do you want to be a magic then? It doesn't sound like much fun. Well, I like doing tricks and things, but I'm not very good at it. I want to learn to do them properly. You had anything to eat? Oh, I'm famished. With that, they walked off. Anna ran after, trying to catch up. Hobbs stopped outside a small building with a red and white umbrella outside. She could just see that inside seemed to be filled with tables and chairs. Wait here, said Hobbs. Hobbs walked inside. Eventually, Hobbs came back out and beckoned Anna to follow him. Just sit down and order whatever you want, and something for me. I'll be back in a little while." Anna looked around for an empty table. She eventually found one near the back of the building. In the centre of a table was a large scrumpled up piece of card covered in coffee stains. On it was written "Menu." Anna looked down at the list of meals. She also looked at the prices. One meal cost more than she had ever seen before. She thought she'd go for the cheapest item. "What you gonna have?" came a voice from her shoulder. Can I have 2 Dunkin' flour balls, please?" "What Dunkin' you want?" asked the waitress. What do you have?" she asked, not quite knowing what Dunkin' was. "You can have red rounds or softy cheesies." One of each," answered Anna. "Fine," said the waitress, and walked off.
"Ladies and gentlemen," came a loud voice from the other side of the room, "we're pleased to introduce Hobbs the Magnificent. Please refrain from throwing food until the end. Thank you." Some very creaky music started up, and a small elfin in the corner started a drum roll on a large tin can. Hobbs wandered onto the rickety stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, I will now," Hobbs sounded very squeaky, "I will now produce a rabbit from my hat. Piffty puff, tra-la!" The hat remained empty. Hobbs shook it upside down, but no rabbit. The crowd started to roar with laughter as Bugsy emerged from around the region of his knee. "Get back in," Hobbs hissed to Bugsy. "Get in the hat." Bugsy jumped out of Hobbs's jacket and hopped off the stage towards Anna. The crowd cheered even louder. "You're rubbish!" shouted a young voice. Now I'm going to make this hanky disappear," he said, trying to recapture his audience. "I place it in my hand, like so, say the magic words, piffty puff, and tra-la! Oh." He tried to release the handkerchief from his hands, but it wouldn't move. "Get off, you're ruining our appetites," someone shouted as they aimed a red round which hit him across the face. Can I have a volunteer?" Oh, it was no good. The mob forming in front of him looked angry, and they were no longer interested in his idea of entertainment. "Run!" he shouted to Anna, who eventually received her stone-cold dinner and was trying hard to eat it. The mob closed in on Hobbs. He took a running dive underneath a seething mass of angry people. The crowd closed in, fists went flying, and there were many groans from those who got in the way. "Grab the food and follow me," came a voice from under the table. Anna reached for all she could and dived under the table. There was Hobbs, looking quite different. "Where's your coat?" she asked. "Oh, left it behind. Always good in a getaway. They think they got me, see? Come on." Hobbs led Anna through a small door near their table, and they found themselves in the kitchen, but not out of danger. Inside there was a very large man. He turned out to be the chef, and he didn't like any interruptions while creating his expensive dishes. "Out! Out!" he shouted to Anna and Hobbs as they fell over the counters, upsetting mixing bowls in their haste to reach safety. Eventually they reached the alley outside the kitchen, but by the sounds of it, the mob inside had just discovered that Hobbs wasn't inside his jacket and that he had gotten away. "Run! We have to hide!" Hobbs shouted as he grabbed Anna by the arm, and they ran as fast as they could as the mob exploded out of the kitchen. "What about Bugsy?" screamed Anna. "He'll get squashed." "Oh, don't worry. He's used to this. He'll find a way to get to me. Here, quick, in here!" And Hobbs and Anna dived into a large rubbish bin just as the horde of angry customers raced past. They waited in the bin for some time after the noises and shouting had passed. "Does this happen often?" asked Anna as she heaved herself out of the bin. "Usually, yes. I told you I wasn't very good." Hobbs whistled loudly. "Why'd you do it then? If everyone treats you like that?" she asked. "Well, I need the money to learn magic, and they don't just take on anyone, you know. This way I'll get loads of money and free food." Hobbs opened his hands to reveal a dozen or so wallets and purses. "You're a thief! You tricked me!" shouted Anna. "No, I needs the money to get educated."
No one misses them. I only take a note here and a coin there, and then I drop them near the exit, and they think they dropped them all in the rush. It's still dishonest. No, I put on a show for them, and all my customers suddenly got very busy. I just paid myself, so they didn't need to worry. I still think that is wrong. I entertained them, didn't I? Well, they certainly seemed to be laughing at one point. And then they got very busy, didn't they? Well, yes, she agreed. Well, all I did was help them out a little. Everyone gives donations to entertainers, just that my customers forgot. I just helped them out. Stands to reason. I suppose that's logical. Oh, look, there's Bugsy. Bugsy was hopping this way and that down the alley towards them. He didn't look too good. What's wrong with him? Asked Anna, concerned. Oh, don't worry about him. He's just a little drunk. Always happens. I suppose once I've managed to clear out the place, he hops around and samples everyone's drinks. Isn't it bad for him? Well, he doesn't do it very often, so I suppose not. I don't suppose you know the way back to Gabble Street, do you? Yeah, sure, why? I really should be getting back. My brother lives there and I'm visiting. I expect that they will be really getting worried now. Come on then, said Hobbs. And Hobbs led the way to Gabble Street. Reluctantly, Anna waved goodbye and crept back into the house. Anna, is that you, love? Put the kettle on, will you? Eunice shouted from the next room. Back to normal then, thought Anna. I bet they didn't even notice I was gone.